The stagecoach lurched to a halt in front of the dusty trading post, and Zara Foster stumbled out with nothing but a worn carpetbag and the dress on her back. Her dark hair tangled from 3 weeks of hard travel across the Oklahoma Territory. It was June 1883, and Muskogee was barely more than a collection of rough buildings scattered along the railroad tracks, a place where people came to disappear or start over, and Zara desperately needed both. She stood there in the blazing afternoon sun, watching the stagecoach pull away in a cloud of red dust, feeling the weight of everything she had left behind pressing down on her shoulders like a physical burden. The trading post proprietor, a weathered man with kind eyes, studied her from beneath his hat brim. "You got people here, miss?" Zara shook her head, her throat tight. "No, I was hoping to find work." He scratched his jaw thoughtfully. "Not much call for ladies' work in these parts, unless you are looking at the saloon, and I do not figure you for that type." "I can cook, clean, mend, work with animals," Zara said, hearing the desperation creep into her voice despite her best efforts. "I grew up on a farm. I am not afraid of hard work." "There is a ranch about 10 miles north of here," the proprietor said slowly. "Owen Caldwell runs it alone since his wife passed 2 years back. He comes into town once a month for supplies. Mentioned last time he could use help with the house and cooking." Man cannot run a spread and keep a proper home at the same time. Zara's heart quickened. "How would I get there?" "I can drive you out in my wagon tomorrow morning if you are willing to wait. Got a delivery headed that direction anyway." She spent that night on a cot in the back room of the trading post, staring at the rough wooden ceiling and wondering what she was doing. Behind her in Kansas lay a life she could never return to. A man who had promised to love her and instead had shown her the depths of cruelty, whose fists had left bruises that had finally faded during her long journey west. Her parents were dead 3 years now, and she had no siblings, no one to turn to when things had gotten bad. So she had taken what little money she had hidden away and run, catching trains and stagecoaches until she had put enough distance between herself and that old life. The morning came with a brilliant sunrise that painted the Oklahoma sky in shades of orange and pink. The proprietor, who introduced himself as Mr. Jennings, loaded her bag into his wagon alongside crates of flour, sugar, coffee, and other provisions. They set out across the rolling prairie, the grass still green from spring rains, dotted with wildflowers that bobbed in the warm breeze. "Owen is a good man," Mr. Jennings said as the wagon bounced along the rutted trail. "Quiet, keeps to himself mostly. His wife Sarah was a sweet thing, died of fever during a bad winter. He has been alone out there ever since, just him and his horses and cattle. I worry about him sometimes, living like that." Zara nodded, watching the landscape roll past. She could see cattle in the distance, and once a small herd of wild horses running free across the plains. The openness of it all made her heart ache with something that felt almost like hope. The Caldwell Ranch came into view as they crested a low hill. It was not much, just a simple house built of wood with a covered porch, a large barn that looked sturdy and well-maintained, several corrals and a few outbuildings. But it sat in a pretty spot near a creek lined with cottonwood trees, and the land around it seemed to stretch on forever. A man emerged from the barn as they approached, wiping his hands on his trousers. He was tall and lean, with broad shoulders and sun-darkened skin that spoke of long days working outdoors. His hair was light brown, slightly too long, curling at his collar, and he wore a hat pushed back on his head. As they drew closer, Zara could see he was younger than she had expected, probably no more than 30, with a strong jaw and eyes the color of the summer sky. "Mr. Jennings," Owen Caldwell said, his voice deep and reserved. His gaze flicked to Zara, curious but guarded. "Morning, Owen. Brought your supplies and something extra." Mr. Jennings climbed down from the wagon. "This here is Miss Zara Foster. She came in on yesterday's stage, looking for work. I remembered you mentioning you could use help around the place." Owen's expression did not change much, but Zara saw something flicker in his eyes. He looked at her properly then, taking in her travel-worn appearance, the way she held herself with a strange mixture of determination and wariness. "I can work hard," Zara said before he could speak. "I know my way around a ranch. I can cook, clean, tend a garden, help with animals if needed. I do not need much, just room and board and a small wage." "Where are you from?" Owen asked, his tone neutral. "Kansas," Zara said, which was true enough. "My family's farm. But they are gone now, and I needed a fresh start." Owen was quiet for a long moment, studying her with those clear blue eyes. Then he nodded slowly. "The house is a mess. I can barely keep up with the ranch work, let alone domestic tasks. I can offer you the spare room, 3 meals a day and $10 a month. You would handle the house, cooking, garden, laundry, that sort of thing. I work from dawn to dusk most days with the horses and cattle." $10 was not much, but it was fair for room and board included, and more importantly, it was safety. It was a place to hide, to heal, to start over. "I accept," Zara said. Mr. Jennings helped unload the supplies in Zara's small bag, then headed back to town with a promise to return in a month. Zara stood in the yard, suddenly very aware that she was alone with a strange man in the middle of nowhere. But when she looked at Owen Caldwell, she did not see danger in his eyes. She saw loneliness and perhaps a reflection of her own weariness. "I will show you the house," Owen said, picking up her bag with ease. "It is not much, but it is solid." The interior was dim and dusty, with furniture that looked handmade and sturdy. There was a main room with a fireplace and simple kitchen area, 2 bedrooms off to the side, and a small washroom. Everything was coated in a layer of neglect, dishes piled in the basin, dust thick on every surface, clothes draped over chairs. "I am not much for housekeeping," Owen admitted, looking almost embarrassed. "I know it is bad." "I have seen worse," Zara said, which was true. "I will have it clean in a few days." He showed her to the spare room, which was small but had a real bed with a mattress, a dresser, and a window that looked out toward the creek. This was going to be. He started, then stopped. "Well, it is yours now. I will leave you to settle in. There is a well out back for water, and the washroom has a tub if you want to clean up. I need to get back to work." "Mr. Caldwell," Zara said as he turned to leave, "thank you for giving me this chance." He looked back at her, and for just a moment his expression softened. "It is Owen. No need for formality when it is just us. And you are welcome. I think we both need this." Then he was gone, and Zara was left alone in the little room. She sat down on the bed and felt tears prick her eyes, but she blinked them back. She had not cried when she left Kansas, had not let herself feel anything during the long journey. But here, in this small, safe room on a ranch in the Oklahoma Territory, she felt something inside her begin to crack open. She allowed herself 5 minutes to sit and breathe. Then she stood up and went to work. Over the next few days, Zara threw herself into transforming the house. She hauled water from the well, scrubbed every surface, washed every dish and piece of clothing she could find. She aired out the rooms, beat the dust from the rugs, and organized the kitchen. Owen stayed out of her way mostly, rising before dawn to work with his horses and cattle, coming in only for meals. Those first meals were quiet, awkward affairs. Owen was not a man of many words, and Zara was not ready to share her story. But slowly, in small increments, they began to talk. "This is the best meal I have had in 2 years. Owen said on her third night there, looking down at the plate of fried chicken, biscuits, and greens she had prepared. "It is nothing fancy," Zara said, but she felt pleased. "It is everything," he replied simply. She learned that he had come to Oklahoma Territory 5 years ago with his wife Sarah, both of them full of dreams about building something of their own. They had worked side by side to establish the ranch, breaking horses and building up a small herd of cattle. Then the fever had come during a brutal winter, and Sarah had died in this house while Owen held her hand and felt helpless. "I should have taken her to town, to a doctor," Owen said one evening as they sat on the porch after supper, watching the sun set over the prairie. "But the snow was too deep, and by the time I realized how sick she was, it was too late." "You cannot blame yourself for an act of God," Zara said gently. "I know. But knowing and feeling are different things." She understood that more than he knew. Zara also learned that Owen was 29, just a year older than her own 28 years. He had grown up in Missouri, the youngest of 4 brothers, and had always dreamed of having his own land. He was good with horses, had a reputation in the area for being able to gentle even the wildest Mustang. He loved this land with a fierce passion, loved the freedom and the challenge of it. "What about you?" Owen asked one night. "What brought you all the way out here alone?" Zara tensed, her hands stilling on the mending in her lap. "I told you, my family is gone. I needed a fresh start." "That is what you told me," Owen said quietly. "But it is not the whole truth, is it?" She looked up at him, saw no judgment in his eyes, only gentle curiosity. "The whole truth is not a pleasant story. Most true stories are not." Zara took a breath. "There was a man. I thought he loved me. I was wrong. When I finally realized that love should not leave bruises, I left. That is all I can say about it right now." Owen's jaw tightened and his hands curled into fists. "Did he follow you?" "I do not think so. I was careful. I took a complicated route, used different names. I think I am safe here." "You are," Owen said with quiet certainty. "I promise you that." Something warm bloomed in Zara's chest at those words, at the fierce protectiveness in his tone. She had not felt safe in so long that she had almost forgotten what it felt like. The summer days fell into a rhythm. Zara rose early to make breakfast, pack Owen a lunch, and see him off to his work. Then she would tend the garden she had planted, do the household chores, and prepare supper. Owen would return in the evening, dusty and tired, and they would eat together and talk. Sometimes he would tell her about his day, about the new colt that was proving stubborn or the section of fence that needed repair. Sometimes she would share memories of her childhood, the happy times before her parents had died, before everything had gone wrong. Slowly, cautiously, they were becoming friends. One hot July afternoon, Zara was hanging laundry on the line when she heard a commotion from the corral. She looked up to see Owen in the pen with a wild-eyed black horse, a magnificent animal that was rearing and fighting the rope. She walked over to the fence, concerned. Owen saw her and shook his head slightly, a signal to stay back. But Zara could see the intensity in his face, the way he moved with the horse, patient and calm despite the animal's fear and anger. It took over an hour, but gradually the horse began to settle. Owen's voice was low and steady, a constant murmur that Zara could not quite hear but could feel the effect of. His movements were slow and deliberate, never threatening, always giving the horse space to make its own choices. Finally, the black horse stood still, sides heaving, and allowed Owen to approach. He placed a hand on its neck, stroking gently, still talking in that low, soothing voice. The horse's ears flicked back and forth, but it did not move away. When Owen finally left the corral, his shirt was soaked with sweat and his face was flushed from the heat and exertion. Zara had a cup of cool water waiting for him. "Thank you," he said, drinking it down. "That is Midnight. Caught him running with a wild herd last month. He is going to be something special once he settles." "I have never seen anyone work with a horse like that," Zara said. "You were so patient." "Animals are not so different from people," Owen said, looking at the horse, which was now calmly eating hay in the corral. "They need to know they are safe, that you are not going to hurt them. You cannot force trust. You have to earn it little by little." Zara felt her throat tighten. She wondered if he knew he was talking about more than just horses. That night, a summer storm rolled across the prairie, bringing spectacular lightning and booming thunder. Zara stood on the porch watching it, amazed by the raw power of nature on display. Owen came to stand beside her. "It is beautiful," she said, "and dangerous. We should go inside before it gets closer." But they stood there a moment longer, watching the lightning dance across the sky. When the rain finally came, it came in a torrent, and they retreated into the house laughing, both of them soaked in the few seconds it took to get inside. Zara found herself very aware of Owen's presence as they stood dripping in the main room. His shirt clung to his chest, and his hair was plastered to his forehead. When he looked at her, something in his expression made her heart race. "I will get towels," she said quickly, needing to break the sudden tension. Over the following weeks, Zara began to notice things about Owen that made her feel things she had thought were dead inside her. The way he smiled, rare but genuine, lighting up his whole face. The gentleness in his hands despite their strength. The way he listened when she talked, really listened as if her words mattered. The respect he showed her, never entering her room, never making her feel uncomfortable or unsafe. She found herself watching him work, admiring the easy competence with which he handled every task. She noticed the way he was with animals, the patience and kindness he showed them. She saw how hard he worked, how he was building something real and lasting with his own two hands. And slowly, terrifyingly, she realized she was falling in love with him. It was different from what she had felt before. That had been infatuation, a desperate need to be loved that had made her blind to the warning signs. This was deeper, quieter, built on friendship and respect and the simple joy of his company. This was watching him read by lamplight in the evening and feeling content. This was the way her heart lifted when she heard his footsteps on the porch. This was wanting him to be happy, to smile more, to heal from his own grief. She did not know if he felt the same way. He was always proper, always respectful. But sometimes she caught him looking at her with an expression she could not quite read, and she wondered. In August, Owen asked if she would like to ride out with him to check on the cattle in the far pasture. Zara had not been on a horse since leaving Kansas, but she agreed eagerly. He saddled a gentle mare named Daisy for her, and they rode out together in the early morning coolness. The Oklahoma Territory stretched out around them, vast and wild and beautiful. They rode for over an hour before reaching the far pasture where Owen's cattle grazed. He counted them, checked for any signs of illness or injury, while Zara sat on Daisy and looked at the endless sky. "This land gets into your blood," Owen said, riding up beside her. "I cannot imagine living anywhere else now." "I am starting to understand that," Zara said. "Back in Kansas I felt trapped. Here I feel like I can breathe." They found a spot by a small creek to rest the horses and eat the lunch Zara had packed. Sitting in the shade of a cottonwood tree, Owen seemed more relaxed than usual, almost happy. "Can I ask you something?" he said, his tone careful. "Of course. Are you happy here?" "Working at the ranch, I mean. Is it what you hoped for?" Zara considered the question. "It is more than I hoped for. I came here just looking for safety, for a place to hide and heal. But I found something else too. I found a home." Owen looked at her then, really looked at her, and Zara felt her breath catch. "I am glad," he said softly. "These past months, having you here, it has made everything different. The house feels like a home again, and I look forward to the evenings now, to talking with you, to not being alone." "So do I," Zara whispered. They sat there in the dappled shade, the moment stretching between them filled with possibility. Owen lifted his hand as if to touch her face, then hesitated. "I do not want to presume," he said. "I know you came here running from a man who hurt you. The last thing I want is to make you uncomfortable." Zara felt tears prick her eyes at his consideration, his gentleness. "You could never make me uncomfortable, Owen. You have shown me what kindness looks like, what respect looks like. You have given me space to heal and a reason to hope again." "Zara," he said, and her name on his lips sounded like a prayer. "I think I am falling in love with you. I have been fighting it, telling myself it is too soon, that you need time, that I am still grieving Sarah. But the truth is simple. You have brought light back into my life." "I love you too," Zara said, the words bursting from her heart. "I was so afraid I would never be able to feel this way again, that what happened before had broken something in me. But you have shown me that love can be gentle, that it can be safe." Owen cupped her face in his hands, his touch achingly tender. "I will never hurt you. I swear that to you. And I will never let anyone else hurt you either." When he kissed her, it was soft and sweet and full of promise. Zara felt something inside her that had been clenched tight finally relax. She was safe. She was loved. She was home. They rode back to the ranch in the golden afternoon light, and everything looked different to Zara now. This was not just a place she worked. This was where she belonged. That evening, as they sat together on the porch watching the stars come out, Owen held her hand and talked about the future. "I want to expand the ranch," he said. "Build up the herd, maybe add some more horses. But more than that, I want to build a life. With you, if you will have me." "Are you asking me to marry you?" Zara said, her heart pounding. "Not yet," Owen said with a small smile. "I know you need time. We have only known each other a few months and you are still healing, but I am telling you my intentions, Zara. When you are ready, when you feel sure, I will ask you properly. And I will hope with everything in me that you will say yes." "I already know my answer," Zara said, "but I appreciate you giving me time. You are right that I need to heal more, to be certain in myself. But Owen, I cannot imagine a future that does not have you in it." They took things slowly after that, courting properly despite living under the same roof. Owen would bring her wildflowers from the prairie. Zara would make his favorite meals. They would sit together in the evenings, sometimes talking, sometimes just enjoying the comfortable silence. They would go for rides together on Sundays, exploring the land, dreaming about the future. Owen kissed her often now, sweet kisses that made her feel cherished and desired but never pushed for more. He was content to wait, to let her set the pace, and Zara loved him even more for that. In September, a neighboring rancher named Mr. Patterson came by to discuss buying some of Owen's horses. He was a gruff older man, weathered by years on the plains, but his eyes were shrewd and assessing. Over coffee, he looked between Owen and Zara with obvious curiosity. "Heard you had a housekeeper now, Caldwell," Patterson said. "Town talk is she showed up out of nowhere." "Miss Foster came seeking honest work and I needed help," Owen said, his tone pleasant but firm. "Anything else is just gossip." Patterson grunted. "No judgment here. Man gets lonely. Just be careful. Sometimes people running from something bring trouble with them." Zara felt her stomach clench with old fear, but Owen's hand found hers under the table, steady and reassuring. "Miss Foster has brought nothing but good to this ranch," Owen said. "And I would appreciate it if you would respect her as you would any decent woman." Patterson had the grace to look abashed. "No offense meant, miss. Just an old man being nosy. After he left with an agreement to purchase 2 of Owen's gentled horses, Zara sat on the porch feeling shaken. "Do you think he is right?" she asked Owen. "Do you think I brought trouble here?" "No," Owen said firmly. "You brought life here. You brought hope. Whatever you left behind in Kansas, it is in the past. This is your home now." But Zara could not quite shake the worry. What if someone from her old life did find her? What if the man she had fled decided to come looking for her? As if sensing her anxiety, Owen pulled her close. "Listen to me. You are not alone anymore. Whatever comes, we will face it together. Do you trust me?" "Yes," Zara said, and realized it was completely true. She trusted Owen with her life, with her heart. October brought cooler weather and the hard work of preparing for winter. Owen worked from before sunrise to after sunset, repairing buildings, stocking supplies, and moving the cattle to winter pasture. Zara helped where she could, and spent long days preserving vegetables from the garden, smoking meat, and making sure they would have everything they needed for the cold months ahead. One evening, as the first frost touched the ground, Owen came in from his work and found Zara putting the finishing touches on supper. He walked up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist, resting his chin on her shoulder. "Marry me," he said simply. Zara turned in his arms, her heart soaring. "What?" "I was going to wait, going to plan something romantic," Owen said, his blue eyes intense and full of love. "But I do not want to wait anymore. I love you, Zara. I want you to be my wife, to build this life together as partners in every way." "Will you marry me?" "Yes," Zara said, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, Owen, I will marry you." He kissed her then, deep and passionate, and Zara felt the last walls around her heart crumble. She was his and he was hers, and together they would build something beautiful. They were married 3 weeks later in Muskogee by a traveling circuit preacher. It was a simple ceremony with Mr. Jennings and a few other townspeople as witnesses. Zara wore a simple blue dress, the nicest thing she owned, and Owen wore his best shirt and trousers. But when they said their vows, promising to love and honor each other for the rest of their lives, Zara knew it was the most important moment of her life. That night, in the room that had once been just Owen's but was now theirs, he made love to her with such tenderness and care that Zara cried. This was what it was supposed to be like, she thought. This was what it meant to be cherished. "I love you," Owen whispered against her skin. "My beautiful wife." "I love you too," Zara said, holding him close. "My husband." The winter of 1883 was hard but happy. Snowstorms blew across the prairie, and there were days when they could not leave the house. But Zara did not mind being snowed in with Owen. They would sit by the fire, talking and reading and simply being together. Owen taught her to play checkers, and she taught him songs from her childhood. At night, they would lie together in their bed, warm and safe, and plan for the spring. "I want to add a room onto the house," Owen said one night as the wind howled outside. "Maybe 2 rooms, for children when they come." "You want children?" Zara asked, her heart full. "Do not you?" "I do," she admitted. "I want to fill this house with love and laughter. I want to give our children the kind of childhood I had before my parents died, full of warmth and security." "Then that is what we will do," Owen promised. By the time spring arrived in 1884, Zara was fairly certain she was pregnant. She waited until she was sure before telling Owen, wanting to give him the news at the right moment. That moment came on a warm April evening when they were sitting on the porch watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors. "Owen," Zara said, taking his hand and placing it on her still flat belly, "we are going to have a baby." The look on his face was one of pure joy and wonder. "Truly." "Truly, I think sometime in October." Owen pulled her into his arms, holding her carefully as if she were made of glass. This is the best news. A child, our child. Thank you, Zara. Thank you for giving me this gift. It is our gift, she said, laughing through happy tears. You are going to be such a good father. The pregnancy was not easy. Zara suffered from terrible sickness in the early months, and Owen fretted over her constantly. But as summer arrived and her belly began to swell with their growing child, she felt stronger. Owen was attentive and caring, taking on more of the household tasks despite his ranch work, making sure Zara rested and ate well. In June, they made the trip to Muskogee so Zara could be examined by the town doctor. Dr. Morrison, a kindly man in his 50s, pronounced her healthy and the baby strong. Your wife is in excellent condition, Mr. Caldwell, the doctor said. Just make sure she does not overwork herself and that she has help when the time comes. On the way back to the ranch, Owen held Zara's hand in the wagon. I have been thinking, he said. When the baby comes, maybe we should hire someone to help you for a few months, give you time to recover and care for the child. We do not have money for that, Zara protested. Actually, we do. I sold those horses to Patterson, and I have been saving the money from selling gentled Mustangs to other ranchers. We are doing well, Zara, better than I have in years. The ranch is thriving, and that is in large part due to you. You keep everything running smoothly. You make this place a real home. Let me use that money to take care of you now. Zara felt tears prick her eyes as they often did these days. You take such good care of me. You are my wife, the love of my life, and you are carrying my child, Owen said simply. Of course I take care of you. That summer was golden. The ranch was indeed thriving, with new colts being born and the cattle herd expanding. Owen hired a young man named Timothy to help with some of the heavier work, which gave him more time to spend with Zara. They would sit together in the evenings, Owen's hand on her belly feeling their child kick and move. What should we name him? Owen asked one night. What makes you so sure it is a him? Zara teased. Just a feeling. But if I am wrong and we have a daughter, I will be just as happy. They went through name after name, unable to settle on anything that felt right. We will know when we see the baby, Zara finally decided. In early October, Zara's labor began in the middle of the night. Owen rode to town at breakneck speed to fetch Dr. Morrison and the midwife, Mrs. Chen, a skilled woman who had delivered most of the babies in the area. By the time they arrived back at the ranch, Zara's pains were coming fast and hard. Owen stayed by her side through it all, holding her hand and wiping her brow, murmuring words of encouragement. The labor was long and difficult, lasting through the night and into the next day. But finally, as the afternoon sun slanted through the bedroom window, their son was born. A boy, Dr. Morrison announced, placing the squalling infant on Zara's chest. A healthy baby boy. Zara looked down at her son, at his tiny, perfect face and shock of dark hair, and felt a love so fierce it took her breath away. Owen was crying openly, touching the baby's tiny hand with wonder. He is perfect, Owen whispered. You did so well, my love. He is absolutely perfect. They named him Samuel, after Owen's father, with the middle name James. Samuel James Caldwell, born October 14, 1884, weighing 7 pounds and with his father's blue eyes and his mother's dark hair. The next few months were exhausting but wonderful. Zara had never known she could be so tired or so happy. Samuel was a good baby, but he still needed constant care. Owen was besotted with his son, spending every free moment holding him, talking to him, marveling at every tiny sound and movement. True to his word, Owen had hired Mrs. Patterson, the neighbor's wife, to come help Zara 3 days a week. Mrs. Patterson was a no-nonsense woman who took over the cooking and cleaning, allowing Zara to focus on Samuel and recovery. She also proved to be full of wisdom about child rearing, having raised 6 children of her own. "You are doing fine, dear," Mrs. Patterson told Zara one day when she found her in tears, overwhelmed by exhaustion. "Every new mother feels this way. It gets easier, I promise." As winter settled in again, the Caldwell family nested in their warm home. Owen had completed the addition he had planned, adding 2 new rooms to the house. One was set up as a nursery for Samuel, though he still slept in his cradle in his parents' room. The other would be for future children, God willing. On Christmas Eve, as snow fell softly outside, Owen gave Zara a gift. It was a locket on a delicate gold chain, and inside were 2 tiny photographs of herself and Owen, taken on a trip to Muskogee. "So you can keep us both close to your heart," Owen said, fastening it around her neck. "As if I need a reminder," Zara said, kissing him. "But it is beautiful, Owen, thank you." "And thank you," he said, looking at Samuel asleep in his cradle, then back at Zara, "for coming into my life, for taking a chance on a lonely rancher, for giving me back my heart. You saved me, Zara." "We saved each other," Zara said softly. "The years that followed were full and happy." Samuel grew into a bright, active boy with his father's easy smile and his mother's kind heart. When he was 2, Zara gave birth to their daughter, Catherine, a tiny thing with blonde curls and her father's blue eyes. 2 years after that came another son, William, who looked like his mother and had his father's calm temperament. The ranch continued to prosper. Owen's reputation as a horseman grew, and people came from all over Oklahoma Territory to buy his horses. Timothy, the hired hand, became like family, eventually marrying and building his own small house on the edge of the ranch property. The Caldwells added more cattle, expanded their land holdings, and became one of the more successful ranches in the area. But more than the material success, what mattered was the love that filled their home. Zara would watch Owen teaching Samuel to ride, or see him gently brushing Catherine's hair, or hear him singing William to sleep, and feel gratitude so deep it was almost painful. This man, this beautiful soul, had given her everything she had thought was lost forever. Sometimes, late at night when the children were asleep, Owen and Zara would sit on their porch as they had in those early days, looking at the stars and talking. They would remember how they had met, how careful and broken they had both been, how love had healed them. "Do you ever regret it?" Owen asked once. "Leaving everything you knew to come out here?" "Never," Zara said without hesitation. "That stagecoach ride to Muskogee was the best decision I ever made. It brought me to you." "I think about what my life would be like if you had not come," Owen said quietly. "Still alone, still just going through the motions. You gave me a reason to live again, Zara. You and our children." "And you gave me safety," Zara said. "You gave me a place to heal and the courage to love again. You showed me what a good man looks like." In the spring of 1892, when Samuel was 7, Catherine 5, and William 3, a man came to the ranch asking for work. He was dirty and rough-looking, with mean eyes that made Zara's blood run cold. When he spoke, asking Owen if he needed any hired help, Zara heard something familiar in his voice. That night, after the man had been sent on his way, Owen empty-handed, Zara told Owen her fear. "I think I know that man. Not well, but he was part of the same circle as the man I ran from. If he recognized me, if he tells anyone where I am." Owen took her hands firmly. "Look at me, Zara. That was 8 years ago. You are Mrs. Caldwell now, respected rancher's wife, mother of 3 children. You have a community here that knows and loves you. Even if that man does somehow get word back to Kansas, what of it? You are safe here. We have built a good life, and no one can take that from you. What if he comes here? Zara whispered, voicing her deepest fear. "What if he tries to make me go back?" "Then he will have to go through me," Owen said, his voice hard as steel. "And Timothy and Patterson and half the county. You are not alone anymore, my love. You have not been alone since the day you stepped off that stagecoach. You have a family now, a home, a place where you belong. And I will protect that with my life." Zara pressed her face against his chest, breathing in his familiar scent, letting his strength steady her. "I am being foolish. You are right. That life is so far behind me now." The stranger never returned, and gradually Zara's fear faded. She realized Owen was right. She was not that frightened, desperate woman anymore. She was Zara Caldwell, beloved wife and mother, valued member of the community. She had a life she had built with her own 2 hands alongside the man she loved. The children grew. Samuel showed his father's gift with horses and spent every moment he could in the barn or corrals, learning everything Owen could teach him. Catherine was bright and curious, always asking questions, always exploring. William was gentle and thoughtful, the peacemaker of the family. When Oklahoma became a state in 1907, the Caldwells celebrated with the whole town. Muskogee had grown considerably over the years, from a rough frontier settlement to a proper town with schools, churches, and businesses. The Caldwells were well-respected members of the community, known for their generosity and kindness. By then, Samuel was a young man of 22, working the ranch alongside his father. Catherine was studying to be a teacher, boarding in town during the week. William, at 18, was still deciding what he wanted to do with his life, torn between staying on the ranch and seeing more of the world. On their 24th wedding anniversary, Owen surprised Zara with a trip to nearby Fort Smith, Arkansas, where they spent 3 days alone together, the first time they had been away from the ranch and children in years. It was like being newlyweds again, and Zara cherished every moment. "I never get tired of you," Owen told her as they sat by the Arkansas River, watching the water flow past. "After all these years, I still look at you and feel my heart skip." "I feel the same way," Zara said, taking his hand. The gold band on her finger, worn smooth by years of wear, caught the sunlight. "You are still the best part of my day, every single day." They returned to the ranch refreshed and even more in love, if that was possible. Life continued its steady rhythm of work and family, seasons and celebrations. Catherine married a lawyer from Tulsa and gave them their first grandchild, a granddaughter named Sarah after Owen's first wife. It was Zara's idea to suggest the name, knowing that Sarah would always be part of Owen's history, part of what had shaped him into the man he was. Samuel married a sweet girl named Emma from a neighboring ranch, and they built a house on Caldwell land, planning to take over the ranch operations as Owen and Zara grew older. William eventually left to see the world, but he wrote letters regularly and came home for visits, always bearing gifts and stories of his adventures. As they moved into their 60s, Owen and Zara slowed down, content to let the younger generation take over the heavy work. They spent their days in the garden, on the porch, taking gentle rides across the land they loved. Their home was often filled with grandchildren, and nothing gave them more joy than watching their legacy grow. One evening in the summer of 1915, as they sat on the porch watching yet another spectacular sunset, Owen took Zara's hand. "You remember the day we met?" he asked. "Every detail," Zara said. "I was so desperate, so afraid, and you looked at me and saw someone worth helping, worth trusting." "I saw someone worth loving," Owen corrected gently. "From that very first day, something in me recognized something in you. Maybe it was that we were both broken. Maybe it was fate. But whatever it was, I am grateful for it every single day." "I came here to escape my past," Zara said softly. "And you gave me the most beautiful future I could have imagined. You gave me love, children, a home, and a community. You gave me myself back, Owen. You showed me I was worthy of good things." "We gave those things to each other," Owen said, bringing her hand to his lips. "This life we built it together. Every moment of joy, every child, every success, it has all been ours." They sat in comfortable silence as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. In the distance, they could hear Samuel and Emma putting their children to bed in the nearby house. From the barn came the sound of horses settling for the night. A breeze carried the scent of prairie grass and the flowers Zara had planted around the house. "It is a good life," Zara said. "The best," Owen agreed. As the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Owen pulled Zara close, and she rested her head on his shoulder just as she had done countless times over the past 3 decades. They had weathered storms both literal and figurative. They had worked hard, loved deeply, and built something lasting. Zara thought about that frightened young woman who had stepped off the stagecoach in Muskogee all those years ago, bruised in body and spirit, carrying nothing but a carpet bag and desperate hope. She thought about the lonely rancher who had given that woman a chance, who had seen past her fear to the person underneath. And she thought about everything that had grown from that moment, from that single act of kindness and the love that had bloomed between them. 3 children, now grown and thriving, grandchildren who would carry their legacy forward, a ranch that would support the family for generations, a love story that had started in pain and grown into something beautiful and enduring. "Thank you," Zara whispered into the gathering darkness. "For what?" Owen asked. "For everything. For saving me, for loving me, for this life." Owen kissed the top of her head. "Thank you for saying yes, for staying, for building this with me. You are my heart, Zara. You always will be." As they sat together under the Oklahoma stars, surrounded by the life they had built, Zara felt a deep peace settle over her. She had come to this place running from her past, broken and afraid. But in the arms of a lonely rancher, she had found healing, love, and a beautiful future beyond anything she could have dreamed. The prairie wind whispered through the grass, carrying with it the promise of tomorrow. And Zara knew with absolute certainty that whatever tomorrows came, she and Owen would face them together, bound by a love that had transformed them both and created something that would endure long after they were gone. Their story, which had begun with an act of desperate courage and quiet kindness, had become something extraordinary. It was a testament to the power of love to heal, to transform, to build something beautiful from the ashes of pain. It was the story of 2 broken people who had found each other and become whole. And it was a story that would live on in their children and grandchildren, in the land they had tended, in the community they had helped build. Long after they were gone, people would remember Owen and Zara Caldwell, the rancher and the woman who had come to him seeking refuge, who had built a life of love and legacy in the wild Oklahoma territory. But for now, in this moment, they were simply 2 people who loved each other, sitting together in the twilight, grateful for every moment they had shared and every moment still to come. The past was behind them, forgiven and forgotten. The future was full of promise, and the present was perfect. As the last light faded from the sky and the first stars blazed overhead, Owen stood and offered Zara his hand. She took it, as she had taken it so many times before, and together they walked into their home, ready for whatever tomorrow would bring, secure in the knowledge that they would face it together, as they always had, bound by a love that had saved them both and given them the most beautiful life imaginable.